Yep, on Friday, April 26th of this year, 2024, deputies from the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office were alerted after the body of a woman was seen floating in the ocean just off of Fort Bragg in California. The deputies, along with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife and the California Department of State Parks, retrieved the body of a young female from the water. Unfortunately, the identity of the deceased remains unknown, as there were no identifying marks or characteristics on the body to aid in determining the identity of the individual. Along with this, the cause of death has not yet been determined for the young woman, and so a coroner's investigation has been initiated to help determine both her identity and cause of death. A police investigation is also underway to determine how the woman made her way into the water and whether or not foul play was at all involved in the incident.
Next up, we have the mysterious golden orb. Back in 2023, scientists came across a strange golden blob deep in the North Pacific in the Gulf of Alaska. The thing was about 4 inches in diameter and was attached to a rock. The team was using remotely operated vehicles, or ROVs, as part of NOAA's Seascape Alaska 5 expedition to explore deep water habitats. They have no idea what this thing is, but it was determined to be biological. So it was something, it wasn't man-made. There was also a small hole in the orb looking like something had gone in or come out, which is definitely freakier. There's a live stream of the researchers picking up the thing with the ROV, and they joke about how the discovery feels like the start of a horror movie. Using a gentle suction device on the ROV, they carefully removed the orb and brought it to the surface for closer examination on their ship, but other than the fact that the thing was biological, they still have no idea what it is. Carrie Howell, a deep-sea ecologist, stated the orb could be a new species or an unknown stage of an existing one.
Next up, we have the unicumber, an entirely new species of sea cucumber that is equal parts fascinating and nausea-inducing. As you can see from the image, this animal is see-through, making its digestive tracts completely visible. Lucky us. The animal acts almost as an ocean floor vacuum cleaner, locating and consuming sediment that has settled in the depths of the ocean, sediment that has passed through the stomachs of multiple other sea creatures before making its way in what appears to be the large and only intestine of the unicumber. Unpleasant to say the least. Anyways, the unicumber was captured using a remote operated vehicle, which was sent down to the seafloor of the Pacific Ocean so that marine scientists may see what kind of things are lurking in the deep. The unicumber was among the largest animals found during the expedition, and it is assumed by researchers that its long tail that you can see is used to maneuver throughout the dark ocean floor.
Next up, we have Barbie pigs. So it wasn't just the unicumber the researchers found, there were tons of new species discovered in the Clarion-Clipperton zone of the Pacific. The team was led by deep sea researcher at London's Natural History Museum, Dr. Adrian Glover. They were studying life at 13 to 16,000 feet down below, and along with the unicumbers, they also found these odd-looking creatures. Super strange, alien-looking things for sure. Like most of the life this deep below the surface often is, oddly kinda cute in a bizarro kinda way though, at least to me. Maybe it's because it's pink, kind of reminds me of Patrick Star or like Kirby or something. One PhD student, Bethany Fleming, suggested they dub the creature the Barbie pig, and the team agreed. And if you're thinking it's because they had just watched the Barbie movie on the flight over and just had it on their minds, you'd be right. That is exactly the reason.
Next up, we have the blob, a large mass of relatively warm water located in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of North America. It was discovered in late 2013 and continued to spread until 2015. Basically, it's a massive marine heat wave that lasted for over 700 days and resulted in the deaths of an estimated 1.2 million seabirds and countless marine animals. The phenomenon, nicknamed the blob, is assumed by researchers to be the result of high pressure systems and greenhouse gases, and it is also largely to blame for the decline in the humpback whale population and the decline of Pacific cod. It is an extremely strange phenomenon that is not fully explainable, but that is definitely worrying based on the sheer amount of detriment it has already caused and could continue to cause to marine life.
Next on the list, we have the true purpose of the expedition we talked about earlier, where all those strange new species of life were discovered. The team was studying the biodiversity in the Clarion-Clipperton Zone because the area is going to be used for deep sea mining, the mining of sea potatoes. But what exactly are sea potatoes? Well, they're actually pretty important to the future of battery-powered cars, amongst other things. Sea potatoes are the nickname for manganese nodules, black rocks that contain precious metals like cobalt, nickel, and manganese. The plan is to scoop these rocks up, bring them to the surface. The CCZ has the largest concentration of these precious materials in the entire world, so they needed to study the life down there to make sure the mining wouldn't disrupt the ecosystems and have too much of a negative influence.
Next up, we have the plastic bag. While a plastic bag hiding in your closet is neither shocking nor scary, unless of course you specifically removed it from your closet only to have it reappear days later, finding a plastic bag at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, the ocean's deepest point, is pretty nerve-wracking. Why? Well, because it illustrates just how widespread pollution has become on our planet. I mean, no human has ever grazed the bottom of the ocean, but our trash certainly has. In 2018, while scanning through thousands of photos and videos from multiple devices located in the depths of the Pacific Ocean, looking for unseen oceanic discoveries, marine scientists came across something completely ordinary for a Sunday trip to the supermarket, but completely out of the ordinary for the untouched depths of the ocean. A plastic grocery bag, which has since become a symbol of our need to make change in order to protect some of the world's most delicate ecosystems.
Just last year, in the summer of 2023, an astrophysicist named Avi Loeb worked together with the US Space Command to haul over 700 small pieces of space debris from the sea, just off the coast of Manus Island. The debris consisted of fragments from a meteor that flew into Earth's atmosphere back in 2014. At the time, a US spy satellite saw them plummeting into the sea, but there was no further investigation until Loeb and some of his undergraduate students got their hands on the report and set out to see if they could haul the little space bits out of the water. The debris is in the form of these pocket-sized spheres containing rare elements like lanthanum, uranium, and large amounts of beryllium. Loeb made a statement to the press saying, quote, "This is the first time ever that humans have held materials from a large interstellar object in their hands," which is pretty cool. Never before have we had the opportunity to examine materials from an object like this that came from outside the solar system. It's a historic discovery. He also made a very interesting statement saying that, quote, "The possibility of it coming from alien hardware is more exotic, but it is a possibility. What we can say for sure is it's not from the solar system." Yeah, pretty amazing.
Next up, we have Amelia Earhart's plane. That's right, after 87 years, researchers at the ocean exploration company Deep Sea Vision believe they may have located the Lockheed 10E Electra that Amelia Earhart had flown while attempting to circumnavigate the globe after becoming the first woman to fly solo over the Atlantic Ocean and the first woman to fly solo across North America. She departed from Oakland, California, and flew for 3 weeks, making various stops to rest and refuel. She was last seen in New Guinea, taking off for Howland Island, but unfortunately she never made it. It is believed her plane was lost over the Pacific, but with no substantial evidence, there was no way of knowing for sure. Until now, that is, because in January of this year, 2024, Deep Sea Vision claims to have captured sonar images of what they believe to be Earhart's aircraft, sitting comfortably at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean untouched and undisturbed for over 87 years. While it has not been confirmed that what the company found is in fact Amelia Earhart's plane, the company does have plans to return to the site and use a remote-operated vehicle to confirm their findings sometime later this year before possibly bringing the object back up to the surface. So there's things to look forward to.
Finally, we have a giant underwater mountain. The seamount was discovered in November of 2023 when researchers were mapping the seafloor off the coast of Guatemala. It's It's what remains of an ancient underwater volcano and sits 7,870 feet below the surface. Now, when I say giant, what exactly am I talking here? Well, try 5,250 feet tall. To put this into perspective, the world's tallest building, the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, is 2,720 feet tall, about half the size. So that's one giant volcano, and there are apparently tons of others that have yet to be discovered. Experts estimate there could be hundreds of thousands we haven't seen yet. And seamounts are actually, they serve a pretty important purpose for the ecosystems down there as well. They're home to plenty of life like sea corals, sponges, and other deep sea life.
Starting off our list today, we have the sunken city of Pavlopetri in the southern waters of modern-day Greece. The city, which is about 5,000 years old, was lost to the sea sometime between 480 and 650 AD due to a series of massive earthquakes that caused the city to sink down a little over 3 meters into the water. Rising sea levels took over from there, causing the site to become fully submerged by its discovery in 1967. Pavlopetri is the oldest sunken city, so discovering it and being able to map out 80,000 square meters of its ruins is an incredible feat. During the 90s, the area was mapped by hand by divers carrying measuring tapes, but in 2009, more productive methods were employed, allowing for a better glimpse at what life in the forgotten city would have been like 5,000 years ago. Well-designed roads, houses, gardens, temples, water management systems, and large buildings all suggest an incredibly advanced civilization. Pretty neat stuff. Next up, we have this strange unknown creature, which was recently discovered in the depths of the Atlantic. It is called the Antarctic strawberry feather star, although it looks much more like a creature from Men in Black than either a strawberry or a star. There are at least 8 species of the creature that live along the depths of seafloors around the world, generally somewhere between 330 to 3,300 feet deep. They come in a range of colors and swim by using their feather-like appendages to propel themselves forwards, backwards, and side to side through the water. These animals, classified as crinoids, are also prehistoric, dominating our waters over 251 million years ago before they suffered a major wipeout. Today, only few are observed trolling the bottom of the ocean floor. Next up, we've got box jellyfish, native to warm coastal waters around the world, including, of course, the waters of the western Atlantic Ocean. They are generally quite small, measuring in at just 0.4 to 11.8 inches in diameter. They are also translucent, making them virtually undetectable in water, which is terrifying because they can kill you pretty easily too. In 5 minutes, this animal can sting you, pain you, kill you, and have your friends and family calling the local morgue. That is because its incredibly potent venom has an incredible knack for sending people into cardiac arrest. While less severe stings won't kill you, they will cause you to experience an intense burning pain that can last up to 2 hours. That sounds terrible. Next up, we have lionfish, which look beautiful but have been known to cause slow and incredibly painful deaths. It's invasive and annoying, but also edible. Like I said, it can kill you, but some governments will also pay you to interact with them, and by that I mean they will pay you to kill them in an effort to maintain the existing ecosystems of Florida and the Caribbean. Lionfish are native to the Red Sea, but after 25 years of illegal dumping into the Atlantic Ocean, they have cast their net to cover much more oceanic surface area. They eat fish, crabs, shrimps, and more, and have led to the extinction of many native plants and animals in the areas they have invaded. And they also have no natural predators. Of course, that's where we come in, but from a distance, because even the slightest touch from one of the lionfish's many feather-like appendages will have you wishing your affairs were in order and you never stepped into the water in the first place. And that's because they can kill you, like I said. And even if they don't kill you, for about 8 hours to 30 days, you're probably gonna wish you were dead as you go through the various stages of extreme burning, abnormal heart rates, abdominal pain, sweating, and fainting, which I will say again lasts anywhere from 8 hours to 30 days. Hell no. I also mentioned they can be eaten. They can, if they are prepared by a professional in a very specific way, because if it goes wrong, you could die. Next up, we have the Challenger, as in pieces of the Challenger spacecraft that exploded and mostly disintegrated on January 28th of 1986, just 73 seconds after takeoff, ending the lives of all 7 astronauts aboard the craft. Well, just 2 years ago, in 2022, pieces of the Challenger were found at the bottom of the Atlantic near the Floridian coast, more than 3 decades after it was destroyed, likely due to negligence. I mean, it never even received an engineer's stamp of approval before being launched. While the discovery of the spacecraft is an incredibly historic find, it is also an incredibly tragic one, as it forces us to remember that the whole thing could have been avoided if NASA had taken the proper safety precautions prior to the Challenger's launch, or listened to the engineers and just decided not to launch the thing altogether. Next up, we have the Portuguese man o' war, and guys, I cannot stress this enough, this thing is not a jellyfish, it's a siphonophore. Oh yeah, also don't touch it because it can kill you. The Portuguese man o' war is incredibly toxic, and its stings can be incredibly lethal if not treated almost immediately. When a person gets stung by one of these animals' many 30-foot long tentacles, they right away experience burning sensations and break out into an incredibly painful rash. This is because of the nematocysts contained inside of their tentacles, microscopic capsules fully equipped with barbed tubes that the creature uses to insert its venom into its prey, or, if you're unlucky enough, you. While death is pretty much a guarantee for fish and crustaceans, humans have a much better chance of survival. However, many deaths have still occurred as a result of being stung by the animal after the toxins led to either an allergic reaction or a cardiovascular incident, aka severe damage to the heart. Not loving that so much. Next up, we've got the sculpin fish, which are often found in the shallow waters of Newfoundland. Hello to my Maritimers out there. They're poisonous, alive, or dead. While a little nick from one of this fish's many spines located along their back won't do too much damage unless a person is highly allergic to bee stings or other foreign substances, a deep wound from one of these spines will surely spell trouble. While this animal won't kill you unless of course you're allergic, or if it punctures your chest or abdomen, it will cause you extreme pain, tingling, and numbness that can last for weeks. Its poison contains cardiac glycosides that can also really damage your heart in the long run, leading a person to live with a higher risk of death due to heart complications. If you ever find yourself fishing in the Maritimes, might I suggest gloves. Next up, we have a polychaete worm, a marine worm that will surely make an appearance in at least one of your guys' nightmares this evening. While they are not deadly, their appearance is disturbing, but luckily they are generally quite small, measuring in at under 10 centimeters, 4 inches. On the flip side, however, they can grow to be 3 meters, which is like 10 feet, so it's a no from me. Like, basically, they're either large enough to eat you or small enough to get lost in your bathing suit. It sounds horrific, and I want no part in it. They are also found at an incredibly wide range of depths, from the shallow rocky shores all the way down to the abyss. Oh, and they can also bite and sting with detachable spines located along their bodies. The pain is not excruciating, but it's unpleasant, and the spines are not easy to remove. Next up, we have the discovery of an ancient computer. In 1917, while exploring the coast of the Greek island Antikythera, an incredible discovery was made. A 2,000-year-old artifact was discovered that soon came to be known as the Antikythera mechanism, an ancient Greek device used to predict the relative positions of the planets and moons in order to pinpoint important astrological events such as solar and lunar eclipses. And the device dates all the way back to 100 BC. This artifact, which many have referred to as the very first analog computer, was found on a shipwreck alongside intact human remains, 2 rare ocean discoveries considering the importance of the artifact and the intact nature of a 2,000-year-old skeleton, which should have, at this point, either completely decomposed or have been carried away by scavengers. I don't know what's going on here, but it's pretty cool. And finally, we've got holes. Mystery holes found on the Atlantic seabed that have caused scientists to say, what? In 2022, while exploring the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration discovered holes in the ridge while using a remote-operated vehicle to explore and map out the area. What had originally been an unmanned expedition to learn more about fracture rift zones and the water column quickly turned into a mystery when the organization discovered a line of small holes with little piles of sediment surrounding them, making them appear as though they had been dug by something. While the holes had been seen in the area previously, seeing them again proved to researchers that their existence was more than just coincidental, but their origin remains a mystery. So who knows, maybe we'll get a more in-depth video on them later should they turn out to be some kind of alien species. Starting off our list today, we have the SS Kamloops, which comes equipped with ghosts and a real live floating corpse. Going by the nickname Old Whitey, the corpse is that of a crewman who worked on the vessel back in the 1920s. On December 6th of 1927, in the middle of a violent storm, the Kamloops was last seen afloat, coated in a thick sheet of ice. When the ship went down, some crew members managed to escape and make their way back to the shores of Isle Royale, but they died shortly after due to either hypothermia or wolf attack. Those who were unable to escape the ship went down into the depths of Lake Superior. Due to the cold temperatures of the water and the fact that there is relatively minimal marine life hanging out at the bottom of the lake, much of what sank in the ship remained with it. Leather shoes, clothing, jewelry, and of course, Old Whitey. Many divers who have visited the wreck have even reported the preserved corpse following them around the ship as though it were alive, and in some instances, divers have said that it even reached out and touched them while they were passing through the interior of the vessel. It's a pretty creepy sight to see. The body is so far gone it's almost translucent, and I think if you touched it, it would kind of just turn to powder. But it's there, so if you're an experienced diver, feel free to check it out and let me know how it goes.
Next up, we have what might be one of the creepiest seafaring tales that I've ever heard. Honestly, the tale of the SS Orang Medan. Now, it's debated as to exactly what year this took place, but it was at some point in the 40s, anywhere between 1940 and 1948. The story goes that a couple of American ships sailing through the Straits of Malacca picked up distress signals from a Dutch merchant ship called the Orang Medan. The distress messages were pretty chilling, to say the least. The radio operator on the ship sent out an SOS in Morse code that read, "We float. All officers, including the captain, dead in chart room and on the bridge. Probably whole of crew dead." The last message simply said, "I die." When the crew of one of the American ships, the Silver Star, reached the Orang Medan to help, they found dead bodies everywhere. And the creepiest part, every single corpse's face was stuck in this terrified expression, staring up at the sky with open mouths and wide eyes. Even stranger, there were no signs of injuries on the bodies. As the rescuers were trying to figure out what to do next, maybe even like tow the ship to port, a fire suddenly broke out in the cargo hold. The fire forced the rescue crew to leave the ship in a hurry, and shortly after they evacuated, the ship exploded and sank, taking whatever secrets it had down with it.
Next up, we have the Salem Express, which some consider to be the most haunted shipwreck in the world. I mean, Salem's in the name, so I already buy it. In 1991, the ferry became stuck on a reef while making its way through the open ocean near Egypt. In 10 minutes, the entire ship was underwater, and it dragged 470 passengers to their deaths. The locals of Egypt refused to dive the wreck, believing that it is not only incredibly haunted, but also protected by jinns, invisible spirits from another world capable of causing physical and mental harm to humans. One scuba diver, who goes by the name of Scuba Dan, decided to brave the wreck, diving down 45 meters into the waters off Egypt. While on board, he saw abandoned cargo, clothing, and bags of toys. At one point, he found an air pocket on the ship, and he decided to poke his head up. When he does this, the sounds of demonic moans can be heard, and throughout the entire dive, he said it felt as though he was being followed. It was super creepy. I probably wouldn't recommend visiting this one, but if you do, you know what to do.
Here's a more contemporary one, the Ghost Yacht. This is a very creepy story. I mean, centuries old shipwrecks are creepy as well, but stories from the distant past can often be embellished, a bit like a game of broken telephone. This case happened in 2007 though. So on April 15th of 2007, 3 men set sail from Arley Beach in Queensland, Australia, on a catamaran called the Kaz 2. They were just going for a cruise. On April 18th, the catamaran was spotted drifting near the Great Barrier Reef by a helicopter. Rescue teams were dispatched, and they found the yacht in good condition, but eerily empty. The engine was still running, a laptop was open, and a meal had been made, but was untouched. There were no signals of a struggle either. Authorities launched an investigation to figure out what happened to the crew. The last known footage of them, taken by a marina's security camera, showed nothing unusual. The final moments on the yacht are still a complete mystery. Maybe one of the men fell overboard and the others drowned trying to save him. Some have even speculated a freak wave could have swept the men overboard, or that they were kidnapped by pirates, but till this day, we still really don't know.
I like the idea of a wave sweeping over and leaving the meal untouched. It could happen, you know? Totally. Next on the list, we have the RMS Rhone, a 94-meter Royal Mail ship that sunk just off the coast of Salt Island in 1867 in the British Virgin Islands after a massive wave knocked the captain overboard to his death. And then strong winds caused the vessel to crash into a set of jagged rocks, which then caused damage to the boiler room, which caused an explosion, which caused the vessel to be torn in half. Rough day at sea. Only 28 members of the 146-man crew survived. Since the incident, the wreck has actually become one of the most popular diving spots in the world, which makes sense. The waters of the BVIs are literally stunning. Those who decide to explore the vessel will be met with beautifully clear waters, a variety of marine life, a variety of artifacts, and also ghosts. The most haunted place on the ship is the hull, where the majority of the passengers were rumored to be while the boat sank. Divers have reported hearing groans and screams while exploring this area, as well as having their shoulders touched despite having no one near them at the time. And many divers have claimed that while ascending back to the surface, they have seen people frantically swimming after them below, desperate for air, but when the divers go back down to help, all of a sudden these swimmers disappear into thin air, or water, I guess.
Next up, we have the Eerie discovery of the Octavius. So this three-masted schooner had left England in 1761 on a journey somewhere to the east. Now, they managed to reach their destination, but on their return journey in 1762, they decided to take a chance sailing through the Northwest Passage. Now, 13 years later, the crew of a whaling ship named the Herald happened across a seemingly abandoned ship, drifting through the water just west of Greenland. The 5-man crew boarded the vessel. At first, they thought nobody was aboard. It wasn't until they reached the lower decks, though, that they discovered the remains of the crew who had been floating aimlessly for over a decade. The harsh cold had frozen their bodies solid, making them pretty well preserved, and the captain was found sitting at his desk. His pen was actually still in his hand. He had written 13 years ago his final log in November of 1762.
Next up, we have the Mars, a Swedish warship that in its heyday would have been the biggest, most powerful vessel in the world. It ran and sank in the 1500s, after which its location remained unknown for more than 500 years. When the vessel set sail, it did so with a variety of advanced weapons on board, including cannons created by the melted remains of seized church bells, which had been taken by Eric XIV in an effort to reduce the strength of the church. Because of this sacrilegious act, the ship was deemed cursed, and when it sank 10 years later, in 1564, off of the coast of a Swedish island during a battle with the Danish forces, the curse proved to be true, I guess. The vessel went up in flames, taking around 900 soldiers with it, along with a bounty of gold and silver coins. For the next 500 years, it was believed that a ghost would continuously rise from the ship's watery grave in order to prevent its discovery, but it appears that even ghosts are no match for modern technology, because in 2011 it was found, and it became a pretty popular dive spot too, with divers who snuck pieces of the wreck back up to the surface, reporting that they could still smell the charred odor coming from the burnt wood. Don't do that, by the way. Do not take things from dive sites. It's not a good idea.
One of the most mysterious maritime cases is the disappearance of the entire crew of the MV Joyita. The MV Joyita was a fishing and charter boat that disappeared in the South Pacific in 1955. It was on its way from Apia, Samoa to the Tokla Islands, a trip that was supposed to take about 2 days. Now on board were 25 people, including experienced crew and passengers. The boat was discovered about 5 weeks after it had been reported missing, and it was drifting way off its planned route. there was no one on board. The boat was partially submerged and in really bad shape. Now, several things about the discovery made the whole situation even more mysterious. For one, the Joyita was found partially submerged, but it was actually built to be unsinkable, even with a full hold of water. It was a mystery how it got in such bad condition and why the crew would have left the ship knowing that it was unsinkable. None of the lifeboats were on the ship, which again means the people tried to escape, but none of them were ever found, and the cargo was missing, which definitely means piracy could have played a role, but the mystery has never been 100% solved.
Next up, the German Wilhelm Gustloff, which sank in January of 1945 during World War II after being struck by a torpedo fired from a Soviet Navy submarine. The incident went down in history as being the deadliest isolated maritime disaster ever, with a record loss of an estimated 9,400 individuals, most of which would have been refugees. The vessel was originally designed to be a cruise ship, but it was repurposed for military use during the war. It was overcrowded when it sank, and so it went down fast. For years, both Germany and Russia downplayed the incident, but eventually the truth came out and the site was classified as a war grave. Based on my research, the area is prohibited, meaning that you can't actually dive there legally, but there have been cases in which divers have been given special permission to explore. Those who have gone down into the watery grave have come back with stories of feeling stripped of everything associated with humanity. It appears the energy of the deceased who passed during a tragic time in an incredibly tragic way is unavoidable.
And finally we have the Ellen Austin. Back in 1881, the schooner Ellen Austin set sail, cruising through the Atlantic near the Bermuda Triangle. The crew then spots another ship just floating there, a ghost ship without a crew. Captain Griffin and a small team boarded the ship to look around. There was precious cargo on board, but no crew anywhere to be found. There were also no signs of a struggle. Being a good Samaritan, or maybe just curious was he, Griffin decided to tow this abandoned ship back to port. So tie a rope they did. They start the tow and everything seems fine until out of the blue, a thick fog rolls in. And when the fog clears, the ghost ship be gone, vanished into thin air. So the captain decides to shake it off and continue on their hardy way, but a few days later, the same ghost ship be back. So they decide to give it another shot. They tie the ships together and once again, the mysterious fog rolls in. When it lifts, the ghost ship gone again. Was the Ellen Austin caught in some bizarre mirage? Or was the crew really caught up in a nautical game of hide and seek with a ghost ship? Let us know down in the comments. Ye hardy seamen.
Starting off this countdown, we have the Violent Whirlpool. Located in Scotland, the Corrigrium Maelstrom is a permanent, powerful vortex. In fact, this is said to be the third strongest in the world, and depending on the weather conditions, this thing can get pretty deadly. In fact, there are countless tales of ships being sucked into the whirlpool's vortex. The lucky ones will just get spun out of control, but they'll survive. Not only that, but this whirlpool can produce standing waves as high as 15 feet high. So you don't want to be anywhere near it when that happens. In our 9th spot, we have the Underwater Memorial. The Sunken Crosses of Malpeque is an underwater graveyard located in Spain. This spot commemorates a group of 16th century missionaries that were killed by pirates before being thrown into the sea. The site features 40 stone crosses at the bottom of the sea off of the coast of La Palma in the Canary Islands. The site was created in 2000. Locals created one cross for each person that was killed, and then they purposely had them sunk in their honor. So it is literally an underwater graveyard, which is cool, but it's also creepy at the same time. It is now forever a site to remember the horrors that happened to these people. Moving on to number 8, we have Jason Voorhees. Imagine you're swimming along in a lake minding your own business when all of a sudden you see Jason from Friday the 13th chained to the bottom of the lake. I don't know about you, but I would become like Michael Phelps and just speed swim my way out of that ocean. Here's the thing, there is a Jason at the bottom of a lake. Turns out that someone put a creepy statue of Jason Voorhees at the bottom of a lake in Arizona. The chains around him add a creepy touch as well. Turns out the statue was placed in Lake Pleasant in 2018 by a diver named Zachary Nagy. According to him, it took weeks upon weeks to make. When asked why he did it, he said that it is common for divers to place objects underwater kind of to act like a marker. Apparently there's a poker table, fake skeletons, even a Christmas tree down there as well. But this one is definitely the creepiest. It must have given some of the divers quite a fright when they first swam into it. Now, Lake Pleasant Regional Park supervisors as well as local officials instructed Zachary to remove the statue. He didn't end up doing so though. But the creepiest part? When they went down there to remove it themselves, it was nowhere to be seen. Moving on to number 7, we have the underwater Stonehenge. England's Stonehenge is a pretty mysterious site. There's a lot we don't know about it, like how was it built? What was its purpose? So on and so on. Well, it turns out that there is a Stonehenge located underwater. It can be found at the bottom of Lake Michigan. There are a bunch of random rock formations that scientists have been struggling to explain, but it's believed that they are thousands of years old. What makes it even weirder is that on one of these stones, they discovered a carving of a mastodon, a relative of an elephant that went extinct like over 10,000 years ago. So they're like, maybe this structure has been here since the last ice age. We really don't know how old they truly are, who built them, and why. In our 6th spot, we have the massive shark statue. So it appears as if divers enjoy giving other divers heart attacks. This time, someone placed a giant shark statue underwater. Holy, if I saw that thing, I legit would have a heart attack, or I'd probably just choke on the water and drown. The shark can be found in Lake Neuchatel in Switzerland. This is 10 times scarier than Jason. Like at first glance, it looks real. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the Sunken Sculpture Park. Located in the Caribbean just off the coast of Grenada, you will find a number of underwater statues. Some of them include life-sized casts of local children or a ring of people holding hands. Nowadays, the sculptures are covered in vegetation and in barnacles. The ocean has completely claimed them. So I won't lie, it looks pretty creepy, but it definitely is a place to see. In our 4th spot, we have the Dead Humans. Now, this is a very undeniably creepy art site. Located just off the coast of North Africa in the shallow waters around one of the Canary Islands, you have 200 human figures laying dead on the ocean floor. This was an art installation trying to highlight global warming. All the dead humans are said to be victims of global warming. This site is called Human Gyre and it is open to the public if you wish to dive down and see it for yourself. If you do, you'll see a ring of humans stacked on top of each other. If I dove down and I didn't have a warning about what this was, I would literally think that it was a portal to hell or something. Coming in at number 3, we have the Dragon's Triangle. The Dragon's Triangle, or the Devil's Sea, or the Pacific Bermuda Triangle, is an area where a number of different ships and military vessels have gone missing, which is why it's considered the Pacific Bermuda Triangle. Fun, not so fun fact, it is considered one of the most dangerous marine locations around the world. In 1950, a team of researchers exploring the area set out, and they never returned home. Their bodies were never found. And over the years, a number of US and Japanese ships have gone missing in that area. One time, 9 American ships went missing in that area on a day with perfect weather. To this day, they haven't been found, and we literally don't know what happened to them. Moving on to number 2, we have the Mariana Trench. The Mariana Trench is located in the western part of the Pacific Ocean, and it is the deepest part of the ocean. It is about 2,550 kilometers long and 69 kilometers wide. The exact depth though is unknown because we haven't been able to get to the bottom of it, which makes it pretty creepy. Scientists say that there could be sea creatures down there that we have never even heard of, but we won't be able to find out because we can't get down there. It's so deep that apparently if you take Mount Everest and put it in the trench, its summit would still be underwater by more than 2 kilometers. So yeah, it's really deep and creepy. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the ghost ships. Now, there is an area in the ocean rumored to be incredibly haunted, and this is located just adjacent to the Bermuda Triangle. How fitting. So this is the shoreless Sargasso Sea. There's no shoreline, hence its name. Its boundaries are ocean currents. Not only is it filled with seaweed so thick that it floats on the surface of the water, but it's haunted. A number of people have spotted long-lost ships floating in the area. When they pull up to it, no one is on board. Not only that, but others have claimed to see faces appear in the seaweed, as if someone was trapped in the ocean looking up at them. How creepy is that?
Kicking off the list at number 10, living fossils. Also referred to as crinoids, but living fossils sounds way better, definitely. These little guys went extinct 273 million years ago, or at least so we thought. We found these dudes this past year, and they're these non-skeletal corals. They're cousins to starfish and sea urchins, but I gotta admit, they don't look nearly as cool. Starfish are the coolest, they're OGs. Discovered on the Pacific Ocean floor, this type of coral will attach itself to the stem of Japanese sea lily, and then they just become one over time. Any type of ocean life that undergoes symbiosis, that creeps me right out. I don't like barnacles. I have a fear of the ocean, and I'm super glad that we're doing this list. So let's move on as I get goosebumps. I hate this. Thalassophobia, I think, is like a fear of deep water. I have that. I also have a fear of shallow water. I can't swim. Number 9, Chuck Lagoon. This lagoon was Japan's main base during the war, but come 1944, the United States launched an attack, what some deem is Japan's Pearl Harbor, where 60 ships were sunk and around 250 planes went down. So for 70 years, there's been a massive graveyard sitting in the Pacific, and it wasn't until recently where we got a good look at these haunting artifacts. A photographer by the name of Super Jolly went down and did the dirty work for us. He called this shoot one of the scariest dives he's ever done in his entire life. They described the atmosphere filled with human skulls, gas masks, and bullets as haunting. Yeah, you don't say. Nobody was expecting these artifacts to be that well preserved after all this time. That's the terrifying thing here. Photos are even still intact. You can see people's family members just sitting at the bottom. How sad is that? It's a haunting reminder of naval warfare, and also humans mostly suck. Number 8, MV Derbyshire. This ship was twice the size of the Titanic, but James Cameron didn't make a movie about it, so let me fill you in with less of a budget. MV Derbyshire was the biggest British registered merchant ship of all time to go down. That's an odd brag, but hear me out. She was assembled in 1976 but lost in 1980 en route from Canada to Japan. A Mayday distress call was never issued, and it was following proper ocean routes with weather routing companies, so they were doing all the right things. What happened? September 15th, 1980, a search began for the missing ship and crew, but 6 days later, the search was called off. Nothing was found. The ship was declared lost. The sister ship of the Derbyshire ended up sinking as well later on in 1986 due to deck cracking, so the families urged officials to search again for answers. Come 1994, the Derbyshire was found. Number 7, Garbage Island. There's a lot of treasure in the sea, but there's also lots of garbage because humans suck. Sorry. I mean, look at the top of the Pacific for the example, not even below it, but right on the surface, we have something called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. It's located safely in the North Pacific subtropical gyre. There's basically 4 of these large systems, which are just massive swirling ocean currents moving warm and cool water about. They're whirlpools of garbage now. No wonder aliens don't want to come. They're like, no, this looks like let's just go to that planet. A plastic bag, for example, was found at the bottom of the Marianas Trench. We now have the deepest piece of trash. Kinda hard for Ariel to sing under the sea when she's got a plastic bag wrapped around her head. This great patch is larger than you think. It's more than twice the size of Texas. It's grown up to 60,000 square miles. Please recycle. Number 6, Yonaguni Monument. This structure was discovered in the 80s near Yonaguni Island in Japan, and the claim is that this is an ancient city, or it was long ago. It's 160 feet long and 65 feet wide, and we're pretty torn over this one. Some think it's man-made, with the lines being so straight that it looks like paths were literally carved out. And I mean, to be fair, that looks like a little staircase. If this was on land, I'd be climbing all over it. I'd think it was made on purpose, some ancient jungle gym. But the fact that it's so deep underwater makes us think that it was a natural formation, obviously. No one's going down there like pickaxing, holding their breath. The footage of it is pretty incredible. If I were to come across this, there's no way I would believe that it's all natural. What do you guys think? Number 5, holes. If you have trypophobia, you may want to look away for this next one. I have it, but I have a job to do, so I'll suffer. Off the coast of Big Sur, California, a survey revealed about 15,000 holes, and they're all roughly the same size. They all measure up to about 11 meters wide and 1 meter deep. The team at Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute found 15,000 of these, and then they found 5,000 more that are even bigger. The little guys are micro depressions and the big ones are called pockmarks. Initially, scientists thought methane under the sea floor was coming out to say hello, and then they left a crater. Rovers went down there, tests were done, no methane. In fact, there hasn't even been any activity for 50,000 years. These craters are doing a pretty good job though when it comes to the ecosystem. Now there's deep sea creatures just living in them without paying rent. How rude. They even found a whale skull just laying in one. Imagine being a crab and coming home to that. Number 4. USS Nevada. Deemed the unsinkable ship, and for good reason, the USS Nevada was lost in 1948, and it wasn't until a year ago where she was seen again. Unsinkable ship that sunk. What's going on here? Well, during the 1941 surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, the USS Nevada was the only battleship to get away in one piece. But barely, they barely got away. It took years of repairs, but she finally returned to battle in 1944 to support the Normandy invasion. A year later, it assisted the invasions of Okinawa and Iwo Jima, and then 2 atomic bomb tests were performed, and then post-World War II, she was finally deemed too ancient for service. So the Navy used the USS Nevada as target practice, and it took 5 whole days and lots of power to finally sink it. A torpedo was the final strike. And after it sank, the Navy wasn't really sure where exactly it would end up. It was more than 15,000 feet below the surface, so it could have gone literally anywhere. Hence why we can't find anything else on this list. You get it. Cut to last year, May 2020, a joint expedition by Ocean Infinity and Search Inc., led by Dr. James Delgado, found her. Just 65 nautical miles southwest of Pearl Harbor. Took a little while, but we gotcha. Number 3. Amelia Earhart. Yeah, you heard me, Amelia Earhart. The first woman to fly across the Atlantic was well on her way to setting even more groundbreaking records, but her plane tragically disappeared somewhere over the Pacific in 1937. It's since been a great mystery where the final resting place of Amelia Earhart is, but we may have actually found her remains back in 1940 on the Pacific island of Nikumaroro. The initial examination of these remains were reported to be that of a man. That was the general idea in 1941, but come 2018, however, we now have a different idea. Science got better, our ideas got smarter. Researcher Richard Johns took another look at these lost remains, and since those days we've learned more about Amelia Earhart. Photos have surfaced since, so now he's comparing the bone measurements to her body type, and they're actually pretty sure that that's our missing aviator, and that we had her the whole time and we just didn't know. Number 2. The Dragon's Triangle. The Dragon's Triangle is located in the Pacific, obviously, as are most of these, and it's like the evil sister of the Bermuda Triangle, and just like that triangle, this one also takes the blame for disappearing ships and planes, and apparently UFOs are flying about. Of course. It's referred to as the Devil's Sea. These names are so scary sounding. Like, I don't know, change the names and maybe it won't be spooky anymore. Just an idea. There have been UFO sightings, magnetic anomalies, planes and ships vanish. In 1945, for example, a Mitsubishi A6M0 went missing and the pilot's distress call said the sky is opening up. Then they disappeared. 1955, a Japanese ship named the Shinyo Maru lost radio contact, and it didn't take long for the New York Times to coin the term the Devil's Sea. All these spooky triangles are ocean currents to blame, or is there something truly paranormal about the Devil's Triangle? Let us know in the comments down below. See Illuminati confirmed. And finally, number 1, crop circles. We'll finish this list off with a cute one, I guess, although I'm arguing this is still pretty terrifying. Crop circles on the ocean floor. Aliens confirmed. They were first spotted back in 1995 off the southern coast of Japan, and for 16 years these things were blowing the minds of divers. Nobody knew where they were coming from. They would just be there one week and then gone the next. Tiny aliens or tiny pufferfish. That's right. In 2011, one of these dudes got caught in 4K, and it's one of the weirdest but most cute things I've ever seen. These male pufferfish, they try and lure in the ladies by making art. Yeah, some birds dance like crazy with their weird mouth-looking wing things. Some fish make art. I don't know. Deal with it. Animals. The thing that baffles me, concerns me if anything, is that the pufferfish uses a shell, like he uses a tool to carve out his emotions. Check this out.
Starting off this countdown, we have the giant cannibal shark. Sounds like something straight out of a horror movie. Honestly, maybe it is. So in 2003, scientists tagged a 9-foot-long great white shark. They did this in order to study the temperature changes in the ocean. Here's the thing. Several months later, the tag washed up on shore. The shark, nowhere to be seen. They checked the information on the tag, and that's when they were shocked. About 4 months after the tag was put on the shark, it dove to around 1,900 feet. They believe that's because the shark was attacked and eaten by something. But what creature in the ocean is going around eating a 9-foot-long great white shark? They still don't know. It could be a massive sea creature that we haven't found yet. or they think it might be an even bigger shark, making it a massive cannibal shark. If you're not afraid of the ocean yet, then this for sure has done it for you. Coming in at number 9, we have the lost city of Atlantis. There's a city that lies sunken underwater just off the coast of the Japanese island Yonaguni, making it Japan's very own Atlantis. Many people believe that the city is around 5,000 years old. There are complete pyramids, ruins of a castle, structures etched with faces, and rock sculptures that look like animals all underwater. It's theorized that a terrible earthquake caused the city to be engulfed by water. But to this day, we don't know the true origins of this mysterious underwater city. Conspiracy theorists believe that the CIA destroyed this island in order to expand America's economic zone. Unless we travel back in time, there's no way to find out more about the city and what happened to it. Coming in at number 8, we have Carol A. Deering, aka the ghost ship of the Outer Banks. So on January 31st, 1921, the Carol A. Deering was found abandoned off of Cape Hatteras in North Carolina. The crew was nowhere to be found. On top of that, tons of stuff was missing from the ship, including the crew's personal belongings, life rafts, logbooks, and navigational equipment. To this day, no one knows what happened to the crew aboard the ship. But of course, we got some theories. Theory 1 is that a mutiny occurred. Theory 2 is that they were ransacked by pirates. Theory 3 is that they were taking part in rum running. People stole the ship to use for the rum running, and when they were done, they just abandoned the ship and left it there. But like I said before, we don't know for sure. In our 7th spot, we have the electronic fog. Okay, this one is pretty weird, not gonna lie. So on December 4th, 1970, a man named Rob McGregor was flying over the Bermuda Triangle when he was met by this weird tunnel-shaped vortex. He entered it, and apparently his wings sounded like they were scraping along metal. All of the electronic and magnetic navigational instruments malfunctioned. When he looked up, all he saw was a dull gray fog. Also, there were strange clouds forming behind the airplane. They were only in the clouds for a couple of minutes, but claimed that they traveled for 40 minutes. When they got out of the fog, they were over Miami Beach, a flight that would have taken 75 minutes. He believes that this weird fog is what has caused other planes and boats and passengers to disappear in the Bermuda Triangle. So what is this weird electronic fog that he encountered while over the ocean? That's something I want to know. In our 6th spot today, we have the time travel. Legend goes that one day 3 ships were traveling through the Bermuda Triangle. Everything was going fine until they encountered a mysterious fog. When they emerged through the other end of the fog, there were only 2 ships. The other ship was way ahead of them. The crew aboard the ship claimed that the fog transported them back in time several years. There, they saw a bunch of different boats and passengers also sailing. Then they approached the same fog and they got transported back to the current day. Isn't that weird? Was this the same fog the pilot encountered? Like, what is going on in the ocean? We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the disappearance of Keith Davis. Now, this case is certainly going to keep you up at night, so just a little warning. So in 2015, Keith Davis, a fisheries observer, headed out to sea with his crew. His job was to monitor all the catches and collect data on it. But about a month later, Keith disappeared off the ship in the middle of the day in broad daylight. He has never been found. On top of that, the weather that day was calm, and he was an experienced observer, so it's not like he just fell overboard by accident. So what happened to him? Well, theory goes that he knew too much, so someone got rid of him. When police searched his email, they found photographic evidence of illegal things happening on board these ships, like they were allegedly smuggling people. He was also keeping track of a number of rule violations. Not only that, a year before his disappearance, Keith sent a mysterious email to his friends. In the email was a video of 4 men being shot to death while holding onto debris in the ocean. So theory goes that Keith was killed for knowing way too much. But still, to this day, we don't know exactly what happened to him. Coming in at number 4, we have the Ellen Austin. In 1880, a ship named the Ellen Austin set sail to New York from Liverpool. During their travels, the crew spotted a ship floating near the Bermuda Triangle. They approached it and found that nothing was wrong with the ship, but all the crew on board were missing. So they decided to put some of their own crew members on board this mysterious ship and have it come with them. But during the trip, the 2 ships got separated. They were separated for a couple of days before the Ellen Austin spotted the ship once again. However, all their crew on board vanished. There was no trace of them. Now, the story goes on saying that they placed another set of crew members aboard the ship, and once again, the exact same thing happened to those men. They disappeared off the ship without a trace. But that account hasn't been confirmed. Either way, this mystery gave birth to an urban legend. Basically, a cursed ghost ship lurks the waters near the Bermuda Triangle. Those who hop on board will mysteriously disappear without a trace. In our third spot, we have the disappearing aircrafts. In 1945, 5 torpedo bomber planes took off for a 3-hour exercise. But while flying over the Atlantic Ocean, they disappeared without a trace. It all started when the flight's leader noticed that his compass wasn't working properly. So he was worried that they were flying in the wrong direction. He instructed the planes to then change paths, thinking that they were going to then be heading towards Florida. But in reality, they were just traveling deeper into the Atlantic. As the planes started getting close to the Bermuda Triangle, their signals began to fail. The last few things the pilots ever said were, and I quote, "Everything looks strange, even the ocean. And it looks like we are entering white water. We're completely lost." Then the communication was cut completely and they were never heard from again. In our second spot, we have the severed feet. What would you do if you were out on a nice stroll on the beach when you came across someone's missing arm or foot? Believe it or not, this has happened a number of times. Since 2007, severed human feet have been washing up on the shore of the Pacific Northwest. The first was a right foot still inside of a size 12 Adidas shoe. The second was again a right foot, size 12, but it was in a Reebok shoe. Since then, 15 more feet have washed up on shore. To this day, we don't know who they belong to or what happened to them, or even if they were victims of the same killer. It's really freaking creepy if you ask me. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the Witchcraft. This is the name of a boat that set sail on December 22nd, 1967. On board was the captain, Dan Burrack, and his friend, Patrick Horgan. The two headed off to get a good look at Miami's Christmas lights. However, after traveling just 1 mile out, they contacted the Coast Guard, saying that the boat had hit something, but there was no damage. Dan seemed to be calm on the call to the Coast Guard and said they just needed a tow to the shore. So they figured that the boat's propeller was just damaged or something like that. The Coast Guard immediately went out, but when he arrived at the spot the boat was said to be, no one was there. It took him only 19 minutes to get there, yet the boat was already gone. Here's where it gets super weird. This boat was virtually unsinkable. Not only did they have life jackets and lifeboats on board, but the boat had a special flotation device installed in it. This made it basically unsinkable. So even if the boat started filling with water, part of it would still be sticking out of the water, so the Coast Guard would be able to see it. And also, they had flare guns on board with them, so if something serious started to happen, they could have set those off. They didn't. The boat and the 2 friends on board just disappeared without a trace, and to this day have never been found.
Starting off this list, in our number 10 spot, we have the Combe Sea Star. These guys may appear to be like sweet little Peach from Finding Nemo, but they most definitely are way more terrifying and dangerous. Also sometimes referred to as the Sand Sifting Star, these guys are a sea star that is the most widespread in their genus, which is found throughout the Indo-Pacific region. These guys are bottom dwellers, which usually means if you're coming into contact with one, it's likely accidental, so it's super important to be on the lookout for them. These guys have spines on them, which can obviously cause injury to the skin, and their venom is in a gelatinous form around the spiny areas. The venom they possess is a powerful neurotoxin called tetrodotoxin, and since it's the most well known of all of the marine toxins, it will definitely be one we talk about again today. This neurotoxin is a sodium channel blocker, which means that it prevents the nervous system from carrying messages, which then translates to your muscles being prevented from contracting in response to nervous stimulation. If a lethal dose of this toxin has been ingested, symptoms will likely be present within 17 minutes, and they include things like gastrointestinal symptoms, sweating, headache, tremor, paralysis, and eventual death. This is all to say, although these guys might look relatively harmless, those spikes are scarier than any of us might have thought. In our number 9 spot today, we have pufferfish. These are a fish that isn't necessarily a major threat to you if you're casually swimming on by, but because they're considered a culinary delicacy, their toxicity gets
gets a little bit more dicey if you aren't quite sure what you're doing. If prepared incorrectly, the ingestion of pufferfish can be lethal because they contain the same powerful neurotoxin, tetrodotoxin, and some certain puffers also contain saxitoxin, which is another powerful neurotoxin. This one is also a sodium channel blocker, and it acts on voltage-gated sodium channels of neurons, which then prevents normal cellular function, which then leads to paralysis. When a lethal dose of pufferfish has been ingested, first the tongue and lips will become numb, which will then be followed by dizziness and vomiting, with the whole body slowly going numb. Eventually the toxin will paralyze the diaphragm, which will stop the person who has ingested it from breathing. If someone lives longer than 24 hours after ingestion, it is likely that they will survive, although coma might last still for several days. While the exact source of where pufferfish get their toxin has been long debated, at the moment the most widely accepted answer is that it is coming from a bacteria that exists in their intestinal tract. In our number 8 spot today, we have the yellow boxfish. These guys are a species of boxfish that can be found in the reefs throughout the Pacific Ocean and the Indian Ocean, as well as the southeastern Atlantic Ocean, and to be honest, they aren't necessarily the most poisonous fish on this list, but its method of poisoning can be a cause for concern. When threatened or even just stressed out, these guys release their poison, tetrodotoxin, which we all know about, but the release is less than strategic. There's essentially no aim and they just shoot it out, swim away, and hope for the best. This is kind of hilarious in theory, but unfortunately this causes a lot of accidental poisonings to both human and other fish alike. In our number 7 spot today, we have water hemlock. Water hemlock is a genus of 4 species of highly poisonous plants that like to grow in wet meadows, on the banks of streams, or really any wet and marshy area. Sometimes referred to as cowbane or poison parsnip, the members of this genus contain a toxin that is called sicutoxin. This causes central nervous system stimulatory effects like seizures. The toxin is present in all parts of this plant, however it is most concentrated in the roots of it. The ingestion of this plant can be fatal in humans, and there are actually reports in medical literature that document severe poisonings and death from water hemlock as far back as 1670. Although less common, poisoning can still occur through skin contact, so this plant is surely one that is best to stay away from entirely. In our number 6 spot today, we have the flower urchin. These guys are a widespread and commonly encountered species of sea urchin from the Indo-West Pacific. They like to make their homes in coral reef and seagrass beds or rocky and sandy environments. The toxins within the flower urchin are called contractin A, which is found to interfere with the transmission of signals at nerve endings and also causes red blood cells to clump, and the other is a protein toxin called petotoxin, which can cause muscle relaxation, sedation, and anesthetic coma, and at high doses can cause convulsions and death. These urchins don't have spines or spikes to deliver their venom, and instead it is done through what is called globiferous pedicellari. These guys possess really powerful sensors, and when disturbed they snap shut and inject venom. The amount of venom is said to be directly related to their size, so if you happen to encounter one, I hope it's a small one? I don't know. I just hope we can all steer clear of them entirely. In our number 5 spot today, we have the button polyp. Also known as green sea mats, these guys are a zoanthid that can usually be found in the shallow reef zones of tropical regions spanning all the way from the Caribbean to southeastern Brazil, but these corals are also often recommended to new marine aquarium owners, but this isn't necessarily great because the health risks associated with owning one can often be underestimated. The most common form of poisoning from these guys is by eating contaminated seafood, but it can also come from direct contact with the skin, eyes, or by inhaling aerosols or steam vapor associated with them. These guys contain palytoxin, which is considered to be one of the most poisonous non-protein substances known, and it is extremely dangerous because it can affect every cell type in the body. Symptoms can range from flu-like symptoms to extreme severe ones, and unfortunately there's no known antidote for it, just general medical treatment and supportive care. In our number 4 spot today, we have the xanthid crab. These are a family of crabs, sometimes known as gorilla crabs, mud crabs, or pebble crabs, but whatever you call them, they're highly poisonous and contain toxins that cannot be destroyed by cooking. The toxins they possess are similar to the tetrodotoxin and the saxitoxin that are seen in the pufferfish, and it is thought that they are also produced by a bacteria living in symbiosis with the crab. Many members of this crab family are brightly colored, as it is said to be a warning to potential predators of the poison that lurks inside of them. The good news is that they are poisonous rather than venomous, so it can't sting or bite, but eating them can lead to death. In our number 3 spot today, we have the stonefish. These guys are one of the most venomous known fish, and although they are primarily marine, some species are known to live in rivers. Most of these guys can be found in coral reefs near the tropical Pacific and Indian Oceans. The name of these fish comes from their camouflage color, which allows them to blend in with their surroundings, but unfortunately because they're so good at disguising themselves, swimmers may not notice or see them and then inadvertently step on them, which can cause a whole slew of issues. When a stonefish is disturbed, it will inject an amount of venom proportional to the amount of pressure it's feeling, and this venom is coming from the glands at the base of their needle-like dorsal fin. The sting of a stonefish is said to be extremely painful, and if left untreated, it certainly can be fatal. The poison within the venom that a stonefish possesses is a proteinaceous toxin called verrucotoxin. The symptoms of this poison include respiratory weakness, damage to the cardiovascular system, convulsions, and paralysis. Although there are many studies that have been done on this toxin, much about how it works and the exact mechanisms of it are not yet fully understood, which just places this already terrifying creature in a cloud of mystery. In our number 2 spot today, we have stingrays. Stingrays are most common in coastal, tropical, and subtropical marine waters throughout the world, and they are a group of sea rays, which are a kind of fish that are actually related to sharks. There are a wide variety of stingrays, but most of them are not normally aggressive and usually only attack when provoked. Stingrays can have anywhere from 1 to 3 blades, and when contact with the spinal blade or blades is made, it causes immediate trauma to the area with a cut, swelling, and muscle cramps from the venom. The venom from a stingray contains the toxins cystatins and galactin. Galactin causes cell death in the victims, while the other one inhibits defense enzymes. This combination can lead to increased blood flow in the superficial capillaries and cell death. In our number 1 spot today, we have the blue-ringed octopus. These creatures look absolutely stunning, but you should absolutely stay as far away as possible from them. Found in the waters of Australia and Japan, the blue-ringed octopus is just as dangerous as it is unbelievable. These guys can be identified by their yellowish skin that is spotted with rings of gorgeous blue and black that change colors dramatically when the animal feels threatened. Despite their relatively small size, these guys are one of the most venomous marine animals in the world. If provoked, they may bite you. The bite is said to be pretty painless, with many people not even realizing they've been bit until the respiratory depression and paralysis sets in. That's right, these are another creature that has venom locked and loaded with tetrodotoxin, but the blue-ringed octopus would put some of the other creatures on this list to shame. These guys are carrying enough venom to kill 26 adult humans within minutes. One thing I failed to mention about tetrodotoxin before is that, as of right now, there's no known antidote, so it's really a game of luck if you encounter one of these creatures. Sleep tight with that information.
Starting off this countdown, we had the HMS Sea Serpent. In August of 1848, the crew on the HMS Daedalus was sailing in the South Atlantic when they spotted this terrifying creature. According to the ship's captain and several members of the crew, they claimed that the monster was 60 feet in length, with 4 feet of its head raising out of the water. This massive sea beast lurked around the ship for 20 minutes before taking off. To this day, we don't know what it is that they saw. They described it as being a long snake with a dragon's head. Pretty weird and creepy, right? Well, they aren't the only ones who witnessed this too. It was spotted a second time by the American brig Daphne, and in fact, crew on board even shot at it. Scientists claim that maybe they just saw a whale, but come on, a bunch of experienced sailors would know the difference between a whale and something that's not a whale. And at number 9 today, we have the Mary Celeste, and if you guys are liking this video so far, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. To this day, the mysterious case of the Mary Celeste is considered one of the creepiest cases in nautical history. Basically, in 1872, the Mary Celeste was found abandoned in the middle of choppy waters. The crew was nowhere to be found. All the cargo on board remained untouched. Now, the lifeboats were missing, which makes people believe that the crew tried to get off the ship and flee. But why would they just abandon their ship like that? Well, we got a number of theories. 1, a sea monster got them. 2, a pirate takeover occurred. 3, they were abducted by aliens, or 4, they consumed bad food and they all went mad. I know, it seems wild. To make matters weirder though, the crew and lifeboats were never found. No one knows what happened aboard that ship. In our 8th spot, we have the Baltic Sea anomaly. In 2011, a group of divers went out looking for treasure in the Baltic Sea. when they came across something weird. It was a 70-meter long weird object laying 300 feet below sea level. This thing has since been named the Baltic Sea Anomaly, and no one knows what the heck it is. It's just this massive steel-looking structure shaped like a disc with some weird patterns on it. Gets weirder when the divers claim their equipment randomly stopped working when they got closer to the object. There was a massive electrical interference there. So what is this thing? Honestly, we don't know, but some people think it's a glacial deposit left from thawing glaciers. Or it's part of a UFO spacecraft from one extreme to another. Could be either or, who knows.
In our number 10 spot today we have the upsweep. We all know how little we know about the ocean, and that includes what kinds of creatures lie in it. So while this mysterious sound out of context probably wouldn't be that freaky, when put into this situation it becomes quite a bit more eerie. This sound is referred to as upsweep, and it was caught when the Pacific Marine Environmental Laboratory started its sound surveillance system in August of 1991. The sound is apparently more seasonal, with its peaks in spring and fall, but it is unclear if the changing of seasons is responsible for this sound, or if it's coming from something that lurks in the ocean and remains undiscovered. Just for reference, here is a clip of that sound played at 20 times the original speed. It is possible that this sound could be coming from underwater volcanic activity, but considering the fact that this has yet to be proven, I am here to ask the question, what if it's not? In our number 9 spot today we have Bermeja. Bermeja was an island that could be found on many maps spanning from the 16th to the 20th century, but in a 1997 survey, the island could not be located. In an extensive 2009 study, it was concluded that the island that was once labeled as Bermeja just didn't exist, which left a whole host of questions. The island was supposed to be located just off of the north coast of the Yucatan Peninsula, which is particularly important because if it did exist, its location would be integral to determining the boundaries for exploitation rights of oil in the Gulf of Mexico. So of course, when this island that's been included on many maps seemingly just doesn't exist anymore, people really began to speculate what could have happened. There are a few major theories with this one. The first is that the original observation of the island was incorrect, and then no one ever went to double check that this island existed. The next being that possible shifts in the geography of the ocean floor, along with rising sea levels, were the cause for this island to completely disappear. The third theory is the most mysterious out of them all, and this is the theory that the island was blown up by the CIA so as to expand the economic zone belonging to the United States. It certainly is not an easy thing for an island to just disappear, so it truly is quite a large mystery about what exactly happened here, and at this point, it is unclear if we'll ever know for sure.
In our 7th spot, we have the Three Men. In 2007, 3 Australian men headed out on an expedition together. 3 days later, their ship was found drifting by itself in the middle of the ocean. The men were nowhere to be found. That's not all. On the ship, they found knives all over the cabin floor, as if there had been a fight and people were scrambling for weapons. What happened to these men still remains a mystery to this day. But of course, we got the theories. One is that they got into a devastating fight and they all ended up dying. Or 2, their propeller became snarled in a fishing line. One dude went to go free the line but then fell into the ocean. The second dude tried to save him and then fell in as well, and then so on with the third guy, or who even knows. Okay, we don't know for sure, that's just a theory. The only thing we do know is that this case is pretty creepy. Moving on to number 6, we have the Kraken. So it may just be that the Kraken is real, but it's not what we think it is. In fact, the legend of the Kraken was thought to have been born after a number of sailors spotted giant squids while sailing. So the Kraken might actually just be giant squids. In 1870, a giant squid washed up in New Zealand. Legend goes that it was as tall as the top of a ship's main mast, and it could easily take over a ship by wrapping its tentacles around the hull and crushing it. Is this true? Who knows? But no one believed that giant squids were real until around 2005. That's when scientists caught a photo of one. Then in 2013 they got a video of one. Now they believe there are millions of giant squids out there. The mystery here is, what beast did the sailors encounter in 1870? Was it a ginormous squid, or was it a kraken, or is a squid a kraken? Who even knows, okay? There's just so many questions out there that we need answers to. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the cursed shipwreck. Back in the early 2000s, a natural gas company was laying pipeline in the ocean when they came across a shipwreck. Nowadays, this shipwreck is considered cursed or haunted. Let me explain why. So after the shipwreck was discovered, a team was sent down there to check it out. But everything that could go wrong did. First, the exploration sub malfunctioned right as it was getting ready to explore the wreck. Then the Navy sent a research sub down there and it literally self-destructed upon entering the water. Then over the course of a couple of years, other attempts have been made to explore the ship, but those have gone wrong as well. None have been successful. So now it's believed that this ship is cursed and doesn't want anyone entering it. In our 4th spot, we have the disappearing submarines. In 1968, 4 different submarines all mysteriously went missing. As a result, people believe that this can no way just be a coincidence. Something was out there sinking these subs. The subs were the USS Scorpion, the Soviet submarine K-129, a French submarine Minerve, and the INS Dakar. In fact, the French sub and the INS Dakar disappeared only 4 days apart. The French submarine has still never been found. What's weird is that it disappeared only an hour away from its port, so you think they'd be able to track it down, but nope. So what are the odds that 4 massive submarines go missing the exact same year? What could have caused this? We'll probably never know. In our 3rd spot, we have Sylvester Butler Jr. Apparently a number of people mysteriously vanish off of cruise ships each year. Most of them have never been found. Today, let's look at the weird case of Sylvester Butler Jr. In May of 2017, Sylvester boarded a cruise ship headed to the Pacific Islands. While on board though, the crew noticed he was acting weird. He kept to himself, barely talked to anyone else, and housekeeping claimed that he never unpacked his bags. The only charge on his bill was the occasional soft drink he would order to his room. Also, every time the cruise made a stop, he never left the ship. Then somewhere between Fiji and the final port Sydney, crew noticed that he was missing. No one knows what happened to him. And the ship's CCTV footage revealed nothing. It's sad, but theory goes that Butler jumped off the ship and took his own life. Apparently he suffered from a chronic genetic kidney disease, so maybe he wanted to end his suffering, but we don't know for sure. On top of that, I believe that his body was never found. Coming in our 2nd spot today, we have the Stronsay Beast. The Stronsay Beast is the name given to a massive carcass that washed ashore on Stronsay Island on September of 1808. At first, people thought it was just the body of a shark, but this creature had paws instead of fins. So then people were hella confused. Not only that, but it was 55 feet long. But part of its tail was missing, so clearly this thing was even bigger than that. This beast was described as follows, and I quote, "Its flesh was described as being like coarse, ill-colored beef, entirely covered with fat and tallow, and without the least resemblance or affinity to fish. The skin, which was gray-colored and had an elastic texture, was said to be about 2 inches thick in parts." End quote. Not only that, but its bristles glowed in the dark when wet, and the contents in its stomach were red. So what is this beast? The Natural History Society of Edinburgh believes that it is a sea serpent of some sorts. Maybe the Loch Ness Monster or its long-lost brother, who knows. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the Orang Medan. So this next mystery is pretty freaking creepy, I'm not gonna lie. It's gonna keep you up at night. So in 1947, 2 American ships received a distress call from the ship the Orang Medan. The SOS call was from a crew member that stated everyone on board the ship had died. Then all of a sudden, his SOS ended with his last message being, "I die." When the ships arrived, they found the ship completely unharmed. The entire crew, including a dog on board, had died. Everyone had a terrified look plastered on their face. No one knows what happened to the ship. Starting off this countdown, we have David Fravor. David Fravor is a US Navy commander who spoke about some pretty terrifying things that he encountered underwater while working for the Navy. So according to him, twice while recovering spent practice munitions out of the water, he spotted a weird underwater object. The first time he saw a dark mass underwater. He described it as being a big mass that was kind of circular. He said he was certain that it wasn't a submarine. For the second sighting, he was retrieving a practice torpedo when this same weird thing sucked it down into the depths of the ocean. The torpedo was never seen again. So what was this big mass that he was seeing? In our 9th spot, we have the naval reports. After hearing David's interview, a 79-year-old woman contacted him. She said that her father was a naval officer, and when she was a child, her father showed her a telegram that stated that unidentified objects had been sighted going in and out of the water at one of their locations. The woman's father told her, and I quote, "We get these all the time, and it's always in the same area." But obviously, the Navy isn't going to release this information to the public. In our 8th spot today, we have the Sycamore Knoll. This is a weird underwater structure located close to Malibu. No one knows what it is, but it looks like a weird stadium-shaped structure, and it's located about 2,000 feet underwater. It's also massive. It's about 2.5 to 3 miles wide. It also has what appears to be pillars or columns supporting it up, and under there it looks like an entrance. One theory is that it's an underwater alien base. Crazy, I know. But a number of UFO sightings have been reported for years in that area. Some even claim to see UFOs landing in the waters in that exact area, and this was before the underwater structure was even discovered. Freaky, isn't it? What do you think it is though? Let me know in the comments below. In our 7th spot today, we have the unidentified object. Now, in case you were unaware, there's this whole theory that aliens live in underwater bases, and that's why a number of UFO sightings are by lakes, or people have seen these saucers rise up or into the lakes. Well, in 1970, biologist Ivan Sanderson published a book titled The Invisible Residence. In this book, he talked all about UFOs or USOs, unidentified submerged objects, aka UFOs that have been spotted going into the water or rising up out of it. According to this book, on April 19th, 1957, a crew member on board a Japanese fishing boat witnessed something very strange. He saw 2 metallic silvery objects descend from the sky and dive right down into the sea. He described them as being 10 meters long with no wings or anything. When the craft hit the water, it caused great waves and rocked their boat tremendously. So maybe the whole UFO, USO theory is true, and they're living underwater. Who knows? In our 6th spot today, we have the gold. Did you know that $771 trillion worth of gold lies hidden in the ocean? Yes, you heard me. Wouldn't it be nice to just be swimming along and bump into some gold and become a millionaire? Unfortunately, it's not that easy. Ocean waters around the world contain about 20 million tons of gold in them. Each liter of water would contain approximately 13 billionths of a gram of gold. So you need to collect and filter an awful lot before becoming rich. And currently, there's no cost-effective method to remove the gold from seawater and be profitable. Now, people have tried. None have been successful. One case that I want to talk about has to do with a man named Ford Jerrigan. He came up with a plan for a gold accumulator. The plan was to extract gold from the Long Island Sound using a process involving mercury and electricity treatments. In fact, people thought that it was great, and before he knew it, he had investors, and he raised about $1 million for this project. But in the end, he scammed them all and fled with the money. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the giant sea monster. Now, if you watched my video on Google Earth, then you already have seen me talk about this. If you haven't, then, well, Google Earth basically caught a giant sea beast on their satellite camera. It was spotted off the coast of Antarctica's Deception Island. And no one, even scientists, don't know what it is. It could just be a whale, but it's still unconfirmed. Theories range from it being an underwater UFO to a kraken or another sea beast that we have yet to discover. To be honest, to me, it looks like a massive squid, but what do you think it is? Let me know in the comments below. In our 4th spot, we have the UFO video. More UFOs. Now, this was a leaked video showing what appears to be a UFO diving into the ocean. The video was filmed in 2019 off the coast of San Diego. Eventually, people were demanding answers, so the Pentagon eventually came forward saying that the video was authentic and that they don't know what the object is in the video. In the video, the object flies across the screen before stopping absorbing and slowly lowering itself into the water. Apparently, this was recorded by official Navy personnel. What do you think that could be? The Pentagon has no explanation for it yet. In our third spot today, we have the plastic. The amount of plastic currently in our oceans is disgusting. Currently, 5.25 trillion macro and micro pieces of plastic are in our ocean. There's 46,000 pieces in every square mile of the ocean. Every day, around 8 million pieces of plastic make their way into our oceans. And guess what? Fish are eating them, and then we're eating these fish. So slowly, these microplastics are ending up in our bodies. But not just from fish. From bottled water, beer, honey, sea salt, and tea bags have all been exposed as microplastic carriers. We're killing marine life and ourselves, slowly but surely, and the governments are hardly addressing this issue. In our second spot, we have the nuclear waste. Bet you didn't know this, but our oceans are radioactive. Since 1952, low levels of radioactive waste have been discharged into the Irish Sea, the English Channel, and the Arctic Ocean. This radiation can enter the food chain through plankton, and then the fish eat the plankton, and then we eat the fish. In fact, radioactive cesium and plutonium have already been found in seals and porpoises. And it's getting worse. As the nuclear energy industry grows, more and more radioactive waste will be disposed of and find its way into our ground and water supply. Again, another scary thing the government doesn't address. And in our number one spot today, we have the secret underwater bases. Allegedly, the government has a number of secret underwater bases. They're just hidden from the public, so we don't know about them. We do know of one base though, and that's the Naval Testing Facility in Lake Bayview, Idaho. The lake that it's located in is 1,200 feet deep, and it is pretty remote, so it's deep and secluded enough to run these tests. If they have one there, who's to say they don't have more?
Starting off this countdown, we have the Solomon Island saucer. Over the years, there have been a number of UFO sightings near the Solomon Islands. Most witnesses experience the exact same thing. They see a UFO with strange lights rise out of the ocean and fly off into the sky. These sightings are what have led to the theory that aliens have secret bases underwater. One fisherman in the area said he saw this UFO and the lights raise out of the ocean and then fly by him. He said it got so close to him that he could feel the heat on him as it passed by. Not only that, but some people who have witnessed this ended up disappearing without a trace. So like, did the aliens come for them or something? Or what? Are they gonna come for me now? No thank you. Just don't go to Solomon Islands, okay? In our ninth spot today, we have the octopi. And I wanna say octopus is so bad, but I know it's not the proper plural, so we're going with octopi, whatever. Ancient astronaut theorists believe that octopi are some sort of version of an alien. Maybe they're related to aliens. So let me explain. So we all know that back in the day, tons of meteors crashed down on Earth. Well, they believe that the meteorites that crashed into the ocean from space actually contained some sort of organic material. Now, this either infected some sort of water species or allowed the material in the meteor to evolve into octopi. So really, octopi could just be composed of alien DNA. Now, to support this theory, they mention that both octopi and aliens are incredibly smart. On a number of occasions, octopi have pulled pranks on humans. They also have way different genomes than squids, which they're said to be closely related to. And also, they can change colors. They're just a really weird species. So what do you think? Could octopi be descendants of aliens? Maybe. Coming in at number 8, we have the Yonaguni Monument. Located in the depths of the Dragon's Triangle is this weird underwater formation, which has been given the name the Yonaguni Ruins. It's a bunch of weird structures that no one knows much about. Some say they are remnants of a lost civilization. Others believe they were created by aliens, and that they're part of a secret underwater alien base. Let's explore that theory. For starters, it's kind of odd that this monument is located in the Dragon's Triangle. This area is considered the Pacific's very own Bermuda Triangle. Over the years, a number of ships and planes have disappeared in broad daylight in calm waters in that area. Maybe this underwater monument has something to do with these disappearances. For example, in 1952, the Japanese government sent 31 individuals to go investigate this area. They all disappeared from that area without a trace, and their bodies and the ship were never found. Theory goes that this monument is being used by aliens in some way. Maybe it's interfering with our navigational equipment and causing these plane crashes and ship disappearances. Who knows? Coming in at number 7, we have Ivan Sanderson. In 1970, biologist Ivan Sanderson published a book titled The Invisible Residence. In this book, he talked all about UFOs or USOs, unidentified submerged objects, aka UFOs that have been spotted going into the water or rising up out of it. According to his book, on April 19, 1957, a crew member on board a Japanese fishing boat witnessed something very strange. He saw 2 metallic silvery objects descend from the sky and dive right down into the sea. He described them as being 10 meters long with no wings or anything. When the craft hit the water, it caused great waves and rocked their boat. This could be more proof that aliens have secret bases in the ocean. Coming in at number 6, we have the leaked UFO video. A recent leaked video from 2019 shows a UFO diving into the ocean off the coast of San Diego. And guess what? The Pentagon confirmed this video to be authentic. So basically, in this video, you can see a dark spherical object flying over the ocean. It was picked up by an infrared camera at night. The object flies back and forth across the screen before stopping and slowly lowering itself into the water. Apparently, this video was recorded by official Navy personnel. Take a look at it and see for yourself.
Took off, booking it.
Staying wind, topside, gust of 40.
What was splash?
What do you think that could be? The Pentagon has no explanation for it yet. Also, the area was then searched and no craft was ever recovered or found. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the Baltic Sea anomaly. In 2011, a group of divers went out looking for treasure in the Baltic Sea. That's when they came across something weird. It was a 70-meter long weird object laying 300 feet below sea level. This thing has since been named the Baltic Sea anomaly, because no one knows what it is. It's just this massive steel-looking structure shaped like a disc with some weird patterns on it. It gets weirder when the divers claim their equipment randomly stopped working when they got closer to the object. The thing caused a massive electrical interference there. It's believed that this thing could be part of an ancient alien spacecraft. To this day, this thing still baffles scientists. They don't know what the heck it is. In our 4th spot today, we have the underwater crop circles. Underwater crop circles don't really need an explanation. They're crop circles found underwater. They're actually quite beautiful. It's just a bunch of almost perfect circles with a design found at the bottom of the sea. Scientists have said that they are made naturally by pufferfish while on a journey to find a mate. Blah, 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 okay? It's kind of weird how perfect and detailed and intricate these circles are. You decide what you want to believe. Are they made by a fish or are they made by aliens? In our 3rd spot today, we have the underwater Stonehenge. Turns out that there's a version of Stonehenge located right at the bottom of Lake Michigan. There are a bunch of random rock formations that scientists have been struggling to explain, but it's believed that they are thousands of years old. What makes it even weirder is that on one of these stones, they discovered a carving of a mastodon, a relative of an elephant that went extinct over 10,000 years ago. So they were like, maybe this structure has been here since the last ice age. So we really don't know how old they truly are, or who built them, and why. But of course, ancient astronaut theorists believe that aliens are involved in this somehow. In our 2nd spot today, we have the weird space alien creature, Alien. So it was captured in 2013 by a remotely operated vehicle. The vehicle was 3,753 below in the Indian Ocean when it saw this creature. Now the creature is quite beautiful. It looks almost like a jellyfish, but it's a creature we have never seen before. As the video goes on, we literally see it shapeshift in front of our eyes, and it starts to glow different colors. Then at the end of the video, it disintegrates from Earth. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the Sycamore Knoll. The Sycamore Knoll is a weird stadium-shaped structure located about 2,000 feet underwater. It's massive. It's about 2.5 to 3 miles wide. It also has what appears to be pillars or columns supporting it. And under there, it looks like an entrance. So automatically people were like, yeah, that for sure is an entrance to an alien base. And not gonna lie, it looks like it. This base was first discovered on Google Maps and it's located close to Malibu. People have claimed to see UFOs landing in the waters in that exact area before they even knew of that underwater structure. Freaky, isn't it? To this day, scientists don't know for sure what this thing even is.
Alright, coming in at number 10, we have globsters. What is this? I will give you a good 5 seconds to look and then you can let me know what you think it might be. Nope, the answer isn't a decomposing luck dragon. I don't think so. Anyway, like maybe it actually is though. I kinda tricked you because nobody really knows what this is. This was found ashore in the beach town of San Antonio in the Oriental Mindoro region in May 2018. This is in the Philippines. Unidentified washed up sea creatures are referred to as globsters because they're globby and blobby. I don't know. Some people think that it was a whale, but the 6-meter long object was actually covered in white hair, which, as we know, whales are not. A lot of superstitious locals thought it was a bad omen. Local resident Tam Malling said, "The big lobster is a sign of something bad coming. Please pray for us." To be honest, if I saw this monster, I'd pretty much start praying too. The less superstitious were simply complaining of the awful smell left by the dead creature. Ugh, I can only imagine. Hands up arachnophobics. I see you, I feel you. Maybe you might want to close your eyes at number 9 because we have sea spiders. Nope, 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 nope. And a second helping of no. It seems that spiders aren't just a land thing. I thought the spiders of the sea were crabs, but I was wrong. This particular menace that has been accidentally dragged up from the ocean is the Southern Ocean giant sea spider, not to scale. He's big. He's really big. Some fun facts for you, this leggy blonde has organs in its pins. Literally. Ugh. And also, something else it literally does. Yeah, it sucks the life out of its prey through its legs. No thank you. No. I'm like, just gonna respectfully decline all sea spiders for the rest of my life. It's a choice. Also a choice at number 8, we have peanut worms. Oh my, just when I thought I swore off peanut worms forever, here they are in my video. Get out. Seriously though, I am horrified by these creatures from the deep. The peanut worm is making me feel, I don't know, I feel like uncomfortable isn't really a strong enough word. I would say deeply uncomfortable. Deeply uncomfortable. Imagine being the poor soul that pulls one of these up from the ocean. Like seriously, that really is probably more than they bargained for and isn't really safe for work. Look at them, flopping around being worms. Do you want to see a bunch of them together? Here you go. I honestly totally get why they're called the peanut worm, but at the same time, can we think of a slightly better name for them? Do you guys want to see one moving? Right, not so bad, right? Okay, I'm absolutely not here for this. Coming into number 7, we have the pelican eel. No, thank you, no. Like, does he or does he not look like a demon alien from the planet Gulp? I'm really not here for an eel in general, but a pelican eel? Ugh. This here chappy bob is a deep sea fish rarely seen by humans, but is sometimes hauled up by deep sea fishing efforts. Imagine bringing one of these to the surface, like ah. Some facts you need to know about this sea beastie. The last one you're actually gonna love. Firstly, it likes to whip its tail back and forth. Secondly, it can glow pink and red if it wants to. And thirdly, do you know what? I don't even really know how to explain it to you, so maybe I'm just gonna show it to you. Wait, what? What is that we are approaching here? Let's take a closer look. Oh, it can inflate. Cool. Great, said no one ever. Coming into number 6, we have this barnacle monster. I have to say barnacles are my absolute least favourite. You know in Pirates of the Caribbean when you meet Barnacle Bill? That's my literal nightmare monster. A barnacle on my face. Ah! So in the spirit of how much barnacles turn my stomach, I want to show you this utterly bizarre monster that washed up on a beach in New Zealand. News networks were dubbing this creature a monster, and it is easy to see why. So this is a boatload of gooseneck barnacles, and they're attached to something. They're long-necked barnacles, and they certainly look weird. Do you want to see them up close? Okay, so we know the explanation. It doesn't mean the thing that washed up wasn't any less scary because bleh. Coming into number 5, we have the lamprey. No! I'm running out of ways to say no. I guess there is only one way, and no. You may have seen images of lampreys floating around the internet. They make for shock thumbnails, but actually, these fanged demons are no clickbait. They're very, very real nasties of the ocean. They're primitive eel-like fish from the North Atlantic and the Baltic. Sadly though, they have actually invaded the Great Lakes of the United States and Canada. They're a pest. Anyway, do you want to see inside the mouth of this devil on Earth or ocean? Yep, they are terrifying. Just as terrifying as the thumbnails, right? How do they eat? Well, they are parasitic and they bore into flesh of their prey, sucking their blood dry. Brilliant! Ho-ho! Coming into number 4, we have the anglerfish. Nope. Do you want to see a lovely picture to brighten up your day? Of course you do! Let me show you. Wait, what? No! That happy fisherman has dragged up an anglerfish from the ocean, and these are, gross, right? Horrifying. Do you want to see what it looks like when it hasn't been bested by a pesky human? You got it. Here it is. And another. Lovely! That is a female. But do you want to know what happens with the males? Do you want to know how they breed? Basically, the males are much smaller and they're parasites. They attach themselves to the back of the female and then they impregnate her without her noticing. Aha! Once he is attached to her, he basically dissolves into her body. Nature! Ain't it beautiful? Back with the unexplainable at number 3, we have the Montauk Monster and the Brooklyn Bridge Monster, because they might actually be the same type of dead thing. A grotesque dead animal washed up on the shore in Montauk in the American state of New York in 2008. Now the monster looked kind of like a cooked dog with a beak. It had cryptozoologists going absolutely wild. Now a similar unexplained creature washed ashore on the Manhattan facing side of Brooklyn in 2012. The pictures are kind of awful, so maybe close your eyes for a second. That's really sad. I feel really sad. Another unexplained washed up monster at number 2. What could this be? It's definitely more fishy than our number 3. Like literally, what is this? This terrifying fish was dragged up from the ocean by a Russian fisherman in 2017. It became a social media sensation. Roman Fedorstov has become Instagram's most famous fisherman. What an accolade. He has over 510,000 followers, which is crazy. Although none of them can tell you what this creature is. It's terrifying, that's all I can say. Also terrifying are all of the other creatures that he has packed and snapped and uploaded to the gram. None such as terrifying as the blobfish though at number 1. Mr. Blobfish, he scares me, but actually, I think I love him. Look at his repugnant, creepy face, but yet there really is something weirdly cute about it, and I think that's what scares me the most. These are a deep sea fish that live off the waters of Australia, Tasmania, and New Zealand. To me, the blobfish kind of looks like a bladder. A bladder personified. It looks like it acts. Basically, it floats around with little energy and effort, swallowing things that pass by. It's like the Mondays of the ocean. He just looks really glum. I get it. It'll get better, blobfish. Can you imagine being the fisherman that brought up the blobfish for the first time, honestly? It has been voted the ugliest creature in the world, but honestly, I actually think that I'm somewhat here for it. I'd never want to touch one, but I do love that they make blobfish plushies. Seriously, look at it. Look at the sushi one! I think I actually might need it. I'm so confused. So
guys, that was the top 10 scary creatures pulled up from the ocean. What did you think to this list? Which creature would you least like to come face to face with? Let me know in the comment section down below, and also don't forget to let me know if you're pro ocean or no ocean, or if you've never seen it.
In our number 8 spot today we have the Sarah Joe. The Sarah Joe was a fishing boat that departed from Maui in February of 1979. There were 5 crew members aboard the boat, and when they left around 10 a.m. that day, the skies were perfectly clear, but while they were out at sea, the wind began to change and they ended up encountering a horrible storm. People on shore who were rightfully worried about the crew headed to the shoreline to try and wave the boat back in, but they were unable to locate the boat at all. One of the passengers' fathers even went out on a separate boat in the middle of the storm to try and see if anything could be done, or if he could at least locate the ship, but to no avail. It was presumed that all of the crew members had been lost due to the severity of the storm. The following days of course consisted of many hours of searching, but neither the ship or any of the men were located. Flash forward almost an entire decade to September of 1988, and a member of the initial search team, John Naughton, was on a wildlife expedition on a deserted atoll around 2,000 miles from Maui when he discovered a small boat and a makeshift grave. He left the site as untouched as he could and immediately contacted authorities, who were then able to confirm that the boat was the Sarah Joe, and the person buried in the makeshift grave was one of the passengers who went missing all those years ago. While experts do agree that the boat could have drifted here and it would have only taken about 3 months to do so, this area was surveyed in 1985 and there was no trace of either the boat or the makeshift grave. So where would the boat and this crew member have been from the 1979 disappearance until after the 1985 survey? These are the types of questions that still remain unanswered to this day. There are of course theories, but none that cover all the mysteries this story holds. In our number 7 spot today we have the Yonaguni Monument. Just off of the coast of Yonaguni in Japan, there is a diving location that has a high population of hammerhead sharks, making it a large and popular attraction. In 1986, a diver in the area noticed some formation on the seabed that resembled a structure of some sort. This led to a team of scientists going on a dive to gather more information, and this is when the Yonaguni Monument was officially discovered. The monument is made of sandstone and mudstones, but here's the mysterious thing. Scientists can't agree on its origins. There are some who believe that this is a natural formation, but there are some who swear that it is man-made. The stairs are over 165 feet long and 65 feet wide, which obviously means that they are strikingly huge. There are pretty reasonable arguments for both sides, and considering the fact that this thing is at least 10,000 years old, I guess it's fair that we may not have all the answers, but it certainly is strange that we can't quite figure it out. At the end of the day, I really don't want to meet whatever thing would need stairs this large. In our number 6 spot today we have the Milky Sea phenomenon. This phenomenon is certainly much more beautiful than the name would suggest, and while we kind of know what causes it, there are still many unanswered questions that surround it. The first recorded sighting of this phenomenon occurred in 1846 when Raphael Semmes, who was the captain of the CSS Alabama, spotted it and was horrified by what he was seeing. He wrote, "From the deep blue water into a patch of water so light it startled me. The whole face of nature seemed changed, and with a little stretch of the imagination, the Alabama might have been conceived to be a phantom ship lighted up by the sickly and unearthly glare of a phantom sea." This phenomenon is so bright that it can be seen from the satellites orbiting Earth, and while it looks amazing in pictures, I can only imagine how frightening it would be to see in person when little is known about why it happens. It is believed that the glow is caused by bioluminescent bacteria that grows in all oceans in our world, but in order to produce a glow like we've seen, this bacteria has to be multiplied by billions of trillions, and we don't know how or why this happens. Also, we don't know for sure if that is what is responsible for the glow, it's just our current best guess. Just for the sake of our expansive imaginations, let's say that it really is this bacteria causing the glow. Why does it come to the ocean surface? Why in such great numbers? Every time this happens, it's at unpredictable times, locations, and sizes, so based basically, it remains a strange but stunning ocean mystery. In our number 5 spot today, we have the SS Beichimo. The SS Beichimo was built in Sweden in 1914 and it belonged to the Hudson's Bay Company. This ship was used to trade provisions for pelts in Inuit settlements along the Northwest Territories of Canada. On October 1st, 1931, the ship was ending its trading run and was packed with fur when it became trapped in pack ice. The crew decided to briefly abandon the ship and they traveled over the ice to the nearest town for shelter. Because of the location and the time, it wasn't exactly going to be simple for everyone to be rescued. On October 15th, the Hudson's Bay Company sent an aircraft to save 22 of the members, but 15 remained and began to prepare in case they needed to stay the winter. Because the ship couldn't be heated, the remaining crew members would return to the ship every few days to chip away some of the ice, but also to grab essential items from the ship. On November 24th, there was a powerful storm, and once it had cleared, the Beichimo was gone. The remaining crew assumed that it had sunk, but this is really where our mystery gets started. An Inuk hunter spotted the ship around 72 miles from the camp the remaining crew members had set up, and somehow they ended up locating it, removing the rest of the valuables, and then abandoning it for the last time because it was believed that this ship wouldn't last the rest of the winter. After the rest of the crew was finally rescued, the ship ended up being spotted around 480 miles from its previous sighting. For 40 years after, the Beichimo was frequently spotted floating in different locations, sometimes even providing people with shelter during storms, but was never once captured. In 2006, the Alaskan government began to work on a project to find the Beichimo, but since the most previous sighting, she has never been located again. While the ship is now presumed sunken, it would have been the longest sailing ghost ship of all time. Ships rarely survive for nearly as long while being unmanned, especially in the crushing icy waters. We still haven't found the wreck of this ship either, so perhaps it is still out there floating somewhere. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Devil's Sea. The Devil's Sea is like the Bermuda Triangle of the Pacific, as it lies in the region just south of Tokyo. This area is often thought as some sort of a paranormal area because of the consistent horrible happenings that occur in it. This area is one of the 12 vile vortices in the world, with the Bermuda Triangle being the most famous one. Above the Devil's Sea, planes are known to seemingly just drop out of the sky like something is reaching up and grabbing them. Methane deposits cause large explosions in the area, and during World War II, this area was the site of over 20 missing submarines. There have also been numerous ships, some twice the size of the Titanic, who have gone missing without a trace after sailing through the Devil's Sea. This is all to say that while we don't really know what lurks in this area, it's probably safest to just stay the heck away from it. In our number 3 spot today, we have the Cassie Nicole. The Cassie Nicole was a boat that set sail from Richmond Hill, Georgia on April 10th, 1990 with 4 people on board. During the second day aboard, one of the passengers realized that the boat was suddenly taking on water, and at this same time the pumps and radio were not working, which left them with little to no options. The crew decided it was time to board a life raft and abandon ship. After a day of floating on this life raft, one of the passengers named Nathan saw the ship's hatch cover floating by them and thought that it might be able to support him better. Once he hopped onto the cover, he ended up losing sight of the other 3 crew members. Later in the day, he saw a freighter go by multiple times, and he was hoping that it had picked up the 3 crew members he had lost contact with. After 3 days of floating at sea, Nathan was finally rescued, but he received the news that the other crew members hadn't been found. Months went by with no sign of the others until a few months later, when Nathan's sister, as well as the owner of the boat, began receiving strange phone calls from someone who was speaking in Spanish. The person on the other line said their name as well as the names of the missing people, and in the final phone call the stranger said, in English, "I'm bringing them home," but there has still never been a sign of them. The family of the disappeared men believe that they may be alive somewhere but are being held in a foreign country, but why? And why would someone say that they were bringing them home only to not do that? In our number 2 spot today, we have the loneliest whale. This whale has been nicknamed the loneliest whale in the world, but the truth is, we don't really know if that's true because we've never actually seen it. This whale, which we don't know if it's a male or a female or what whale species it belongs to, sings its song like no other whale does. The whale was first heard in 1989 on a hydrophone, and while the calls were most similar to that of a blue whale, there was one striking difference, and that was the frequency of the calls. This whale calls at 52 Hz, with regular blue whales calling between 10 and 40 Hz. Even fin whales are usually heard at 20 Hz, so it's just left everyone stumped as to what could be going on here. A researcher named Bill Watkins dedicated his life to trying to reveal what exactly exactly is going on here, and while he passed away in 2004, he found that this whale was not only unusual, but totally unique. The biggest challenge is the fact that we cannot locate this whale. Their calls can be heard for hundreds of miles, and trying to find one single whale in the vastness of the ocean is next to impossible. Many people have suggested that perhaps the whale is deaf, and this is what has led to its unique song, but of course without the whale, how could we possibly know for sure? In our number 1 spot today we have the French sailors. Yves Emmanuel Payne and Laurent Hernas were French sailors who were hired to sail a boat to its new owners. Their trip would see them departing from Annapolis, Maryland and heading to Guadalupe, but when they never arrived at their destination, searches quickly began. Unlike many of the other stories similar to this one, there were actually sightings of this ship, most of them occurring along the intercoastal waterway, which was far off from the course the ship was intended to take. Along with these sightings came the frightening news that the witnesses claimed to see a third man on the boat, which made people begin to believe that it had been hijacked, which wouldn't have been all that surprising considering the state of the art vessel they were on. Despite these sightings, the boat was never found and neither were the men. To add even more strange occurrences to this story, however, around 2 months after the disappearance, a police officer in South Carolina pulled over a speeding car. After a sort of strange encounter with those in the vehicle, it was later discovered that 2 of the 3 men in the car were the missing Yves Emmanuel and Laurent, but at this point they of course had already been released. What exactly happened here has never been fully discovered, despite this all happening in 1991. Were the sailors kidnapped? Were they part of an elaborate plan to steal the ship, despite their loved ones saying that they would never do such a thing? It all remains a mystery.